it's a wonderful thing that I had to fight to, get everybody approval.
Well, it's tricky in boxing sometimes because sometimes it's difficult to make those matchups happen. And a dream matchup like that between two undefeated world champions, and for you to dominate the way you did, because a lot of people had that like a pick'em fight. Like a lot of people didn't know how to call it, but you just fucking ran that fight. You ran that fight. That was amazing.
Yeah, that's a fight that we've been wanting for years. And to finally secure the fight and perform the way that I performed, it was a great moment for me in my career.
It was beautiful, man. I mean, just the way you controlled, the way you switched things up, the way you controlled the pace of the fight, the defense, your defense was on point. Those hooks that you were landing in close were magnificent. It was a brilliant fight, man. I mean, I'm sure you appreciate it. I'm sure you watched it a bunch of times. But, man, that was like a real – because it was such a mainstream fight, such a huge fight where everybody was paying attention to it and talking about it, even casuals, that they got to see you perform that way. And, now it's like there's no dispute. You're the number one pound-for-pound guy on earth.
Yeah. That's something that I got to credit to my coaches, because we drilled everything that you seen – fight night, we drilled it time and time again. So it came natural and easy for me when the fight came. Like I said, only thing they kept saying how he's going to beat me is because he's bigger and he's stronger. That was it.
You look stronger.
Of course.
Yo. What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back, welcoming you to the Friday Night Chop Session with Stormybman for this Friday, August 18th, 2023. This is number 213 in the series of Friday Night Chop Sessions, and we're calling this one Boxing. Are you not entertained? Yeah. So as we come in for this evening, you just heard a slight sound bite from the Joe Rogan podcast from a little earlier this afternoon, where Joe Rogan had Terrence Bud Crawford on in his studio. And I'm sure there'll be more information coming out from that particular podcast. But we're going to have a little bit of a review of some of the things that were stated by both men as they held a conversation. That'll be in a little while in the show, but I thought I would open it up to give you a taste of what's to come from that conversation. Bud Crawford, off of his victory over Earl Spence Jr., has been making the rounds, as fighters have been known to do in the past when they win big fights and they become, it's like in sports, they go viral. Now everybody knows the guy's name, and a lot of the top media formats will look to get interviews and conduct conversations with that particular person, so that they can say that they got a part of that electricity when it transpired. And it also does more toward the person, and in this case it's Terrence Bud Crawford, who has not had those opportunities in his career to enjoy those type of accolades and celebrations through media as he's receiving currently. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We got a few other subjects that Stormy would like to go over this evening, but that's just a smidget of what we're going to do this evening. There's a lot of news in the sport of boxing this week. A lot of things going down, positive and negative, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. We had the pressers kick off this week for Canelo versus Charlo. We'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit, what you guys may have got from the two face-offs that were posted on both the East and West Coast this week with these two men for their September 30th showdown, and get a chance to have a feel for what your thoughts might be on that as it draws nigh. It's like the year is rolling on, and one of the reasons why the title for tonight's show is Boxing, Are You Not Entertained? It's because we have been inundated with good fights, great fights, after fights, after fights. And as I've stated on a couple of occasions before, 2023 is looking to be one of the biggest and most productive years in the sport of boxing that we've had in a long time. The only thing that we are not having, much to the chagrin of those who care tremendously for the sport, are the heavyweights. But next week, we have a big fight coming up where Alexander Usyk, unified heavyweight champion, is going to be taking on his top contender, Dynamite Danny Dubois. And that's a fight that has been made since Usyk was not able to come to terms with a unification for undisputed match against WBC champion Tyson Fury. This was the next fight up. Now, there has been a lot of conversation about Usyk, other choices he could have made and things of that nature. I'm not necessarily here to pick that apart, but we could discuss that a little bit as well within the time constraints of tonight's show. So just speaking on what has been happening in the sport of boxing, there has been even some information come out recently where some not so positive news have been attributed to Alicia Baumgardner. And because I will choose to wait and see how the other shoe drops in that situation, I will hold off on any personal comments that I might have against that situation. But it's really shady, the sport of boxing, man. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the ring, out the ring, and it seems like some of the more prominent names are just being associated with some negativity. So, yeah, we're going to get a chance to talk about all of that this evening a little bit. And I want to say welcome. I hope that everybody had a wonderful evening, a wonderful week, and leading up to this evening. Thank you for stopping in. Hit my like button while you're out there, please, as we get ready to talk the sport of boxing. There's far more news than what I just mentioned, but those are a couple of the things that, initiating the show, want to talk about a little bit. I'm going to take a moment to go back into the chat and see who we got in the building, who decided to come out and rock with Stormybman this evening. Let's see, going up. We had Curtis Price, my brother, is out there saying right on 1,000. Amen. What's good with you, Curtis? Dank Father is in bright and early saying peace to the sensei. What's going on? Copper Aborigines is back with us saying salute, Stormy B, man. What's good with you, Copper? Good to see you. He says, right on time to be live. Yes, sir. 704 Joe, right out of that Dallas, Texas out there. He says, peace. What's going on with you, 704 Joe? Good to see you. Shawa Allah is in the building with those channel emojis. You know how much I love that. I had to even post them up in the chat myself. She says, blessings, OG Stormy in chat. Shabbat Shalom. Yeah, what's going on? Who else we got out here? You guys are greeting one another. And Copper Aborigines feels that Usyk versus Dubois is going to be a good fight. Probably will, but who will it really be good for? That's the thing right there, man. Because I'm telling you, man, I'm not sold on Danny Dubois just yet. And his last fight, he looked awfully shaky, and then he hurt his ACL in that fight. And he's coming back off of an ACL to fight a mobile guy, because Alexander Usyk has pretty good footwork in there. And if he makes Danny move and pick up his feet, it's going to be a difficult fight for him. And I got this feeling that Danny feels that he's just going to go in there and march him down and throw power punches and bang him up out of there. And he made a comment earlier in this promo for the fight. He's talking about, he's 220 pounds. And though Danny is like 240 plus, 220 pounds, the last I checked, Tyson, Holyfield, Ray Mercer, there were a number of pretty darn good heavyweights that hovered around 220 pounds. And at 220, Usyk is actually bigger than Holyfield, because Holyfield typically was around 208 for most of his heavyweight career, and then he began to go up around 218 or so, but he was in the teens as he got a little older, more than he was, in the 20s. So it's going to be interesting. I think that Usyk has actually grown into that heavyweight status. He came up from much lighter weights. I think he fought Sean Porter in the amateurs. So that shows how small he may have been at one time in life. So we'll see what happens next Saturday. What is that, the 26th? When those guys will square off, we look to see what's happening. Champion Hart is in the building saying salute to Sensei Stormybman and brothers and sisters in the chat. I'm here, Stormy. Can't jump in the chat. Working right now, but I'm listening. Okay, I got you there, Champion Hart. Appreciate you coming in, bro. Appreciate you coming in. Copper Aborigine says his mobility will be an issue for Dubois, especially if Dubois is not totally back from that ACL. Now, they were saying that it wasn't that major or whatever, but the way he hurt the ACL to begin with, because that guy he faced in his last fight gave him some movement, punched him, he took a step back and twisted his knee. It's like, because the guy fights like a robot to begin with, Transformers, more than meets the eye. Yeah, that's Danny Dubois, And as I've stated on numerous occasions, he ain't even the best fighter in the Dubois family. His sister Caroline, sweet Caroline, oh, yeah, she's better, She's better already, And she be getting people up out of there too. So yeah, we'll see, Now Danny does have the proverbial puncher's chance, but he's not matched in the skill department. And he's just going to have to face that reality. You know what I'm saying? So let me see here. I'm going to pull up something. Let's see. Because I like to have my facts in order. Dubois has a record of 19-1 with 18 KOs. Going up against Usyk, who's 20-0 with 13 KOs. But in his last four fights, Usyk has faced Anthony Joshua twice with wins. Joshua being a former heavyweight titleist. That already is a pedigree better than anyone that Danny Dubois has faced. Plus wins over Derek Chisora, who was 32-9 at the time that they fought. and Chaz Witherspoon, his first heavyweight fight when he came up to heavyweight back in October of 2019. Now, against Chisora and Witherspoon, he lasted. Whether Witherspoon was out of there with a 7th round TKO. He had took that fight on a situation where he basically got off the sofa to come and fight Usyk. But Chisora came out like gangbusters trying to get after Usyk, thought he would be able to intimidate him and bully him. And in that fight, Usyk weighed 217.25 pounds to Chisora's 255. And he won a unanimous decision by staying out of danger with Chisora. And Chisora is a lot more lively in there than Danny Dubois. Though Danny has a bigger punch, but Danny also may be subjective to power punches. So that's just something to think about. You know what I'm saying? As we talk about these guys coming together. But are you not entertained? Are you guys finding 2023 to be a very prosperous year in the sport of boxing? That guy that Dubois fought in his last fight was Kevin Lerena. And though he scored a TKO victory in that fight, Lerena, who had come up from cruiserweight also, was a southpaw from South Africa. And he is nowhere near the southpaw that Usyk is. And in that fight, Dubois was down 3 times in the first round. 3 times, people. 3 times. And Usyk is a much better fighter. Yes. That's just something to keep under your hat. Because I'm telling you, boxing is the theater of the unexpected. Dubois could come out there with all those muscles and everything. And then you'll see all those muscles right with him laying on the canvas, huh? Yeah, it has happened before. Definitely has happened before. So it's just something to think about. Keep the wheels turning. Shawa Allah says, Caroline is better than Danny. Yep. Copper says, I believe even if Dubois, if healed, Usyk's speed will bother him. Yeah, Usyk is a pretty darn good boxer, man. A lot of people don't like the guy because, one, let's face it, he happens to be a Caucasian from the Ukraine, but he's an accomplished, decorated fighter, and he has been through the amateurs, through the pros. It's not like he had this outstanding amateur career and they picked and matched him here and there. He was undisputed at cruiserweight. He fought a lot of named fighters at that division, and now he's moved up to the heavyweight divisions, and he took out Anthony Joshua back to back. So that's something to think about when you consider this man and his abilities. There's a lot of people that don't want to give fighters credit based on when they look at, that little pigmentation, huh? But when a fighter is good, he's good. You have to just pay attention to the sport of boxing. I talk about that all the time, huh? When somebody can fight, I'm watching, I'm tuning in, Shawa says, my bad, Copper, I'm watching boxing and half reading. Okay. Copper says that speed kills and he can box. That's the difference. Yes, and he's very intelligent. If you look at how he fought Anthony Joshua, he knew that Joshua was going to come out in the second fight and try to take that fight to him and be a little bit more physical and everything. Excuse me. But he took those opportunities for Joshua off the table with his experience. See, you can't match experience that's not there with someone who is so seasoned that they can fight multiple kinds of ways. And see, the fact that he had Joshua reeling toward the end of their first fight let Usyk know that the second fight had to be on cruise control, because what Joshua tried in the second fight, Usyk was trained and prepared for in the first fight. And again, you know what I mean? Everybody's got a plan till they get hit. Shout out to Mike Tyson. Yep. There's something to be said there. People need to pay attention to that. Dritch Richardson says, salute, Stormy. What is it with these UK guys? Should they immediately come to the US to train? Well, all of the training in the UK is not bad, but if they want more diversity, they should come here, get sparring and everything from the top fighters in the US. That's one of the things you can do, is when you work with people, if you have been taught how to study, you can pick up some knowledge of what you're doing in there. That has always been the case, that a lot of guys never wanted to leave where they were, and they would only rise to a certain level. That's just like a guy. If a guy only fights in his hometown, say he's from New York, but he only fights fighters in New York, no matter where they're from, he'll only fight in New York. As soon as you take him out of that element, he's a little bit different, maybe a deer in headlights, because he's not comfortable anymore. See, in the sport of boxing, is all about a guy dealing with discomfort and that which makes you uncomfortable. And see, a lot of the American trainers, they do know and understand that, but you don't have a lot of them practicing it, because most of them just want to get that paycheck. Yeah. It's as simple as that. Shawa says, we've had that conversation before about UK fighters. I thought Yard should train here. Listen, Shawa, as talented as he is, he could take his career to another level if he got some American tutelage under his belt. That kid is talented. And maybe if he had some US seasoning prior to facing Artur Beterbiev, he may have been able to at least go the distance with Beterbiev and battle for a decision, instead of succumbing to being worn down by Beterbiev. He has the athleticism, he has punching power, he even has pretty decent defense, but he didn't have enough of that ability to be able to stand in and get his pound of flesh from angles and do certain things to tie Beterbiev up, or to give him enough different looks. But he was definitely bigger, younger, and stronger. But Artur's experience just it pushed through. So that's something that you're right about that, Shawa. Definitely right about that. Flawless Mentality, Dr. Mark is in the building. He's saying salute to the God, the Sensei, Stormybman, my brother of elevation, fam, and the gods and beautiful goddesses of the mighty LDBC Friday night chop session family. Yeah, Lewis Hinton is in the building. What's good with you, Lewis? And salute to my brother Drew Tight, LLC, out there in the super chat. Appreciate you, Drew. He says grind. Yes, sir. That's what it is. It's a grind. And Stormy is out here doing his part. trying to make some sawdust out of these branches that I've chewed up. Yeah. Shower says 100. Copper says Tyson Fury hired Sugar Hill to beat Deontay Wilder, then fired him, didn't he? Well, he didn't hire Sugar Hill to assist with him beating Deontay Wilder. Sugar Hill was able to show him some tricks and remind him of some things that the Kronk fighters, when they come up under Emmanuel Stewart, there are certain secrets of the game that the Kronk holds to the vest. I'll just say that. And Fury had the advantage of being introduced to that way before Emmanuel passed away. Because don't forget, he was over there working with Emmanuel at one time. But Sugar Hill is also there as a patsy. Now, if you understand what a patsy is, that word goes all the way back to when former President JFK was assassinated, and the alleged assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, was thought to be the assassin, and most people said that he was a patsy. He was put up as a man to take the fall. So you haven't heard anything hit the floor yet, but keep your ears open. The chapter isn't closed yet. That's all I'll say about that and Sugar Hill. But wait a minute, I'll share one more thing with you about Sugar Hill. And if my man Drew Titan is still out there, he'll have an appreciation for this. If you guys can keep your eyes on the screen, shout out or shots out to Sugar Hill Stewart. Keep your eyes on the screen.
I left your ass blowing in the breeze. Shh, don't you ever.
Yeah. You see? That's what I got to say about that, Sugar Hill Stewart. Word has it that Sugar Hill wasn't even in the gym when a lot of these other guys was in the gym. So, but that's a whole nother story for another day, But just know that Stormy got plenty of info, Plenty of info. Some that I can never address on air, But it's there. Yeah, bars. That's right, Copper. That is right, brother. Mental. Bahotep is out there saying, salute to you, Sensei. Right back at you, man. Right back at you. Copper says, I know I used to train as an amateur at Kronk, 1971, as an 11-year-old. Well, Copper, depending on how long you was there, listen, let me say this. You probably learned a thing or two being there at the Kronk, And some of it wasn't so, how can I say, upright, A lot of it was some soiled stuff, Yeah. Shaw was laughing. Copper is laughing. He says, car fire. There you go. And Dr. Mark is cracking up too. Copper says, he wasn't there. Yeah, I know. Hey, listen, man. Those who know won't tell. And those who will tell don't know, Yeah. Let's just say it at that. Copper says he was a crooked, you know what, Yeah. From 71 to 77. See there? I'm telling you, man. Listen. The word is out, bro. The word is out. Yeah. It's out there. It's out there. So just know, man. Just know. This ain't no game, huh? This ain't no game. Boy. But with all this happening in the news, man, I'm going to get back into this talking about Mr. Crawford for a minute, because that was something that it's nice to see this young man getting his notoriety right now. You know, it's been a long time coming. No thanks to Bob Arum, and top rank boxing. You know, this young man has had some people come at him now and be like, hey, can you tell your story? Can you come here and let us know a little something about you? And that's always good. That's always good. And one thing that can't be denied too, what comes with this is that bag, because they can't go back to shortchanging him, They can't go back to being like, hey man, we're gonna give you these crumbs off of this table. Dude gonna be like, man, listen here, I paid for the catering in here. You ain't giving me no crumbs, but you can get the hell out. He gonna be the big shot caller now. And you watch certain things with certain people and people of principle. You'll see how it flows. Yeah. Copper's saying, yeah, let's chop it up about Bud. That was an interesting interview. Yes, it was. So with that endorsement from Copper, we could get right back to it. But yeah, that opening part that I played for you guys was basically, you know, something that was released earlier this afternoon. But Rogan is probably going to put it up in snippets. He's been known to chop his material up like that, and then at a much later date, you can catch the entire or the subject in its entirety. But yeah, let's listen to what else he had to say.
Of course. And I was just like, how do you know he's stronger than you?
Right.
He might be bigger than me, but big don't mean stronger.
Well, he's just taller than you. You look more muscular than him too. But it was just the technique was what really stood out. It's like you just were a master in there. It was a master class.
That's something that they wasn't giving me credit for as well.
How?
Because they
That's
said,
the thing. It's like, how are they not?
You know, I don't know what it is with me. They just always try to diminish my accomplishments and, oh, well, who I was fighting. They say, oh, well, you wasn't fighting nobody. And this guy, Errol Spence, is the most fundamentally sound fighter in the game. So that's why everybody was picking him. But
now, I want to say something about that remark he just made. Rogan saying that, you know, how did he do this? And, you know, and Bud is responding with how the people were not giving him credit for his victories by questioning who he was victorious over instead of acknowledging his wins. Let me give you an example. Gervonta Tank Davis right now has been very successful in his career. And as I pull him up on BoxRec, let's see here. Let's see. As I pull him up on BoxRec, his record is currently 29-0 with 27 KOs. So Tank has been putting in the work, you know. But as I go through the list of names on his dossier, and as I'm scrolling through, 7 out of his 29 victories. 7 out of his 29 victories are non-Latino fighters. All of the other fighters, so like 22 out of the 29, are Latin fighters. That's a problem. And when you look at his accomplishments overall, they've built him to be an opponent of Latin fighters, meaning that there's going to be assured box office when he faces off against Latin fighters. Because each and every time, the audience is like, hopefully my man so-and-so gets him. You understand? There's even talk now that he may be going back in there against Isaac Cruz. Why? Why? He beat the guy with literally one hand after hurting his hand in the first fight. They're not looking to fight Shakur Stevenson. They're not looking to fight Devin Haney. They're not looking to fight any of the fighters that are so-called considered on his level. Isaac Cruz is not on Tank's level. No way, no how, no fashion. But the box office that's generated off of this is based upon us against them type of psychology. And the American public and the boxing public, because that's two different entities, the American public and the boxing public, they like tribal rivalry. But you may be told that tribal rivalry sells. It doesn't. They make money off of it, which is two different things. Can anyone sell you racism, bigotry, bias, and prejudice? Those are virtues and ethics. You either have that or you discard it. So how can that be a selling point for me? If I'm good at what I do, people will come. They will support. They will listen. As a great fighter, people can look at you and be like, you know what? That son of a gun can fight. When's the next time? Let me tune in. So bias, bigotry, and prejudice is sold to you if you're ignorant. Don't be ignorant. Anyone out there that's been buying into the fact of what I said at the beginning and initial point of this show, talking about 2023 being a tremendous year in the sport of boxing. If you really want to see the real best fighting the best, you should boo these folk handling Tank Davis, telling us that they are possibly going to put him back in the ring with Isaac Cruz. Put him in against Shakur Stevenson, damn it. Put him in against Vasyl Lomachenko, who's professed that he wants to fight him. Devin Haney has moved on up from the division now, so that ship has sailed. Tank will have to go up to 140, which he's been up there, to face him. And each and every time out, you need to be like Fred Hawthorne. Shout out to Fred, Barbershop Conversations, when he says things about what's factual ask Floyd why they won't let Gervonta fight black fighters. You're trying to sell me racism. I don't buy racism. When I go to the hospital or the doctor or go to get checked out, there's some doctors I can't even pronounce their name. But thank God they there to take care of me and my health, because if I was so hung up on the fact that, oh, he's from over there, or oh, they're from this country or whatever, I'd probably be dead and gone already, huh? When a man is drowning off the shores, huh? When he sees somebody walking on the shore, hey, help, I'm drowning. He ain't waiting for the next person that may be of his nationality to come by and throw him a life raft, huh? He's looking for the first available soul. Stop buying into the ignorance. But this is what they do to you. And when you every bit as ignorant, it's picking your pocket. You turn your mind off and you open up your wallet. When you open your mind, your wallet might stay closed. You see how that works? Yeah. Yeah. Young Hollywood, what's good with you, man? Copper says facts. Mental says that's a fact, Sensei. Plus race fights sell. No, they sell you race fights. You know why? Because an agenda is being pushed at all times. Us against them. I just said that a moment ago. They tell you it sells. But how many times have you seen open racist actions, prejudice, reflections, and found it despising? You frown upon it. You spit upon it. You don't like it. Why aren't you engaging in that? Why? Yeah, I like this. No, nobody likes it, especially when you're a victim of it. And how many of us are a victim of it in this society every single day? If you were to tell a Latin person that's looking for work, they may have a college degree, but you tell them, I can't hire you in this office, but we need somebody to take the trash out and cut the lawn around the property and stuff like that. Is that not an insult? It's every bit of an insult as when a person is sitting in their car, or a woman walking down the street, and she can see a black person walking the opposite direction, and she pull her purse closer to her body or something. Now, she don't walk past 1,000 of other Europeans or whatever, and she didn't pull her purse closer to her then. But one black guy, he could be in a Brooks Brothers suit with $500 shoes on. She'll still pull that purse close to her. What is that? You've been pre-programmed in this society. No, it doesn't sell. They sell that to you. But I don't buy it. That's why I can say these things that I'm saying about Tank Davis. I told you I went and looked at his box rec. He's got damn near 30 fights, but only 7 fighters were not Latin. You have to know what you're looking at. See, there's parts of truth and fact that hurts. It's like putting alcohol on an open wound. People don't like that. But my question is, if you don't like it so much, why do you participate? Why do you make sure that you do your part? I never said that Tank Davis is not a good fighter. But what they've marketed to you, if you are willing to accept Isak Cruz for a second go-round over someone like Vasyl Lomachenko or Shakur Stevenson, you're a damn fool. A fool. One of the reasons that Bud Crawford had not been marketed, had not been supported, had not been promoted. Look at him. Look at his skin. Now look at him again. You see? Now the worst part of that, some of you, or let me say it this way, I'll change my wording. Some of us look like him and don't support him. We've been known to say disparaging remarks about his appearance, not even acknowledging why we know him. We know him for boxing. And when he was boxing, knocking people on their ass and going back home, y'all would say, he ain't beating nobody. He ain't calling out nobody. But he's right there under the rankings of everybody and everything, and he's moving up. He's moving up. He's overtaking. But you ain't acknowledging his accomplishments. You just see that complexion. Yeah, you guilty of it. Because the same ones of you out there that say they sell racism. Huh? No, you buy racism. I don't buy racism. I buy quality fights. I buy quality fights. It ain't about region. It ain't about where you come from. You've been programmed. Can't even think for self. You let others think for you. And that's how you shortchange your own brother. Instead of embracing this fight that was one of the biggest fights that could be had in the past 30 years, you pick sides. And another awful truth about this is not Errol Spence Jr. a little bit lighter complexion than Crawford? Is he not? Now, somebody might say, man, I never even thought about it that way. If you never even thought about it that way, that means that you are part of the problem. You know why? Because you don't want to see the facts. You close your eyes to it. You turn. You walk out the door. Huh? You look for an exit. See, you didn't know I was going to go this direction with this because it has to be said. It has to be said. Clarissa Shields. Same issues. If she was brighter complexion like Alicia Baumgartner or even Jessica McCaskill, she'd be on all the cover magazines that they could put her on. But you all don't raise a damn hand or a flag of discontent on that circumstance. You just let it go, and some of you promote it. To the degree that the young lady sometimes dresses a little bit inappropriately because she wants attention. And she's a beautiful girl. She's young enough to be my daughter. So I'm not looking at her in a lustful way. I'm looking at her for the black beauty that she is. But y'all don't give her that. You don't. You've been programmed. Mentu Bahotep, some of us can't see because we don't use our eyes. No, has nothing to do with the forest and the trees. And if you remember the line of dialogue from the movie The Matrix, after Neo took the blue pill. No, I'm sorry, he took the red pill, didn't he? It's been a while since I watched the movie, but you understand what I'm trying to say. Once he went into being reconditioned and he awakened, he asked Morpheus, "Why do my eyes hurt?" And Morpheus said, "Because you've never used them before." That was too heavy for most of you all to understand. Far too heavy. Because you walk through this life every day accepting so many things around you, you're not using your eyes. And sight begins within the brain. This is why it's called insight, because it comes from within. Has nothing to do with your eyeballs and visibility. I can prove to you that what I said is factual. You walk through the neighborhoods and communities on a day in and day out basis. Don't you see all these young men running around with their underwear showing and everything, and nobody says anything? Some of them are your children. If I were ever to walk around like that, my father would kick me so far in my behind that I could spit turds. You understand? But when I say these things, you don't like it. You're despising, because I'm telling you the truth. You'll sit up and look at me like this. Yeah. Some of you may even want to pull out some heat, huh? But again, that's where I talk about your sight being short, because you're not looking at what you should be looking at. And so therefore, your actions, your thought processes are misplaced. Yeah. Misplaced. And I say this with purpose, because I have a platform to help remind you that you're off track. Off track. Yeah, that's how you look at me. I have a colleague that I work with. He shared the most ungodly story with me this morning. A young man that he knows murdered his father like a week ago. Not even 20 years old. And his dad, who was an educator, was getting on his son and telling his son, don't go out of here high on weed, smoking weed and everything before you start your day of work and school. And he told the son, you're not gonna go today. You're gonna stay at home. The young man took a kitchen knife and stabbed his father in the torso and murdered him. The educator was a well-respected man of the community and in his line of work. He taught in school. And then when they interviewed the young son who had committed this heinous act with other family members in the house too, do you know that this piece of scum told the authorities, I don't know why I did it. Demons are amongst us. These be the last days, people, the last days of mankind as it has been known and as you may have known it. Sons against fathers, daughters against mothers. Did you hear that story? What was it? A couple years ago now, about the young woman who engaged in a sexual act with her guy and his mom. His mom. You see? But why do these things happen? Because you have eyes, but you cannot see. By the time we got to this point in life where the father had to address his son, who I take it had been smoking weed for, he's like, hey, it's my thing. It's what I do. You can't tell me what to do. I'm grown now. Got a little hair around my privates and on my chin. I'm a man. That don't make you a man, son. And because you did what you did, you are far less than and will never be a man. Your own father. Your own father. You ever seen people walk down the street and look at you funny, look you up and down, look at you with despisement and hate, and they don't even know you, but they look just like you? Why do you think that is? Those who have eyes but can't see. When you can answer that, you can understand what I'm trying to convey to you. But I say all of this, I got to get back to Bud Crawford and his interview with Joe Rogan, because I wanted to simply point out when he talked about people not acknowledging him, giving him his credit, I told you what's behind it. I told you. But I'll go right back to it so I can finish breaking it down.
I was favorite in Vegas, so Vegas must have had it right.
Yeah, well, the wise people picked you as a favorite, you know, just based on your accomplishments. It's not like Errol Spence wasn't a great fighter. He's a great fighter, but it's so interesting when you watch a great fighter against what I believe is an all-time great. It's just that there's just levels upon levels upon levels upon levels. And right now, you're at the top of the fucking mountain.
yes. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
Beautiful. You deserve it. You deserve it. That's when you planned for that fight, you knew that you were probably going to fight him. Like for the last few years, it was something that was on the table.
But not really. There was a point in time where I was like, you know, I shifted gears and I shifted my mind off of Errol Spence because I didn't feel like the fight was going to happen. But once I left Top Rank and we started negotiating, I was like, oh, well, maybe this fight will happen. And then once I fought Avanesian, because the conversations and everything that we was talking about to get the fight done, it wasn't lining up to what I wanted. So I decided to take another fight. And then I came back to the table and like, hey, listen, let's get this fight made. And
you know, again, now this is educational. For those out there that talked about this young man being backtracking and ducking and things of that nature, he just explained himself quite clearly. Salute to my man Eric Jordan out there in that super chat. Appreciate you, Eric. He says, man, that's messed up, Stormybman. Another good man gone and son in the slammer for life. Yeah? See? Predictive programming. That son did what he did because he took his lessons from outside of what his father had to offer. And now he took his future and his past away from himself. Deal with it. If you could do that to your own dad, what do you have to offer the world? Thank you again, Eric Jordan, for the super chat. Bud is saying that he wanted the fight. Top Rank wouldn't make the deal. PBC wouldn't make the deal. Once he went independent, the talk for the deal opened up and he could revisit it. But they still were trying to undermine and shortchange him because he knew his worth. That's not for you to determine. That's for he to determine on his accomplishments because he has put in the work, not you and your observations. You can't even judge correctly as you look at, like I said, these fools out here with the pants hanging around and they all of them running around through the neighborhoods with armed weapons on them and everything. And some of them are your nephews, sons, uncles. But you turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to it all. Half of these deletions and these injuries that's happening in the community, you all know who's doing it. And the reason they haven't been brought to justice is because you won't snitch. So this man is telling you right here in front of your face, he wanted it, but he had conditioned himself to think or to not think about it because he felt it wasn't going to happen for him. And that's what a man does. He doesn't dwell, pout, and sit around and stick his lip out and moan and be groan and start saying slanderous things to other people about another person and things of that nature. He went on about his business. And some of you out here ridiculed, criticized, made fun of, condemned. No one ever thought that this was someone who walks like a man. But you didn't respect him as that. Some of you didn't even support Spence, but you were against this guy. And like I said, that despisement, that deep-rooted intercultural hate, bigotry, bias, and prejudice, y'all don't like him because of his complexion. And that's a shame. Because that could be you. If you allowed yourself to get inspired and motivated by someone like he. But again, that's not what you do. You turn away from it because you've been conditioned to think that that's not beautiful. I remember so many of you complaining that he wouldn't talk to the media. He wouldn't talk to certain YouTubers. But if you hear him talk, even as he's been making these rounds, he has spoken clearly and quite with an acute understanding of what people have said about him. An ear to the ground, so to speak. And you wanted him to talk to you? You wanted his people from his camp to talk to you? And all you did was ridicule and make fun and make names? See, think about it this way. the oppressiveness that you heaped upon this man, God elevated him to heights that you could never understand. That's how it works. David and Goliath. Maybe you should read a Bible. Maybe you should learn something. Read, period. Because when you read, it helps stimulate and promote brain activity. But see, a lot of you ain't interested in that. No. Throwing this man down. And now he has been raised up. You just heard Joe Rogan tell him he's on the mountaintop now. And he says he's loving it. He's worked hard for it. He's not gloating or anything. He's given respect. He has given consideration and acknowledgement through this whole process. And there are people out here who will never understand that. And they'll sit there and they'll be looking at him just like looking at me. Huh? And what did I say? Huh? Look at your screen right now. Huh? Yeah. That's what they'll do. Salute to the brother Eric Jordan back in that super chat. He says life is about choices and trade-off. But shout out to both Bud and Earl for making it happen. I give my respects to both of these brothers. Yes. Absolutely. And even Bud has acknowledged that this wouldn't happen without Earl. And there's no hate there. There was just competitiveness, which is why he said, I will honor what our contract says. If Earl wants a rematch, we'll fight a rematch. If it's got to be at 154, it'll be at 154. The whole point of it is a man standing on his square, both men standing on their squares, to bring to you all quality entertainment that you profess to crave. That's what that is. Getting back.
And at that point in time, things wasn't going how I would have liked it to go. So I just hit up Spence like, hey, man, listen, man. If me and you going to fight, me and you going to get this done. Because, you know, there's a lot of people that blocking the fight. Really.
How were they blocking? Like, what was the hold
Which
up?
is business-wise. You know, I just felt like I was worth X amount, and they felt like I wasn't. And they wanted to do the deal a certain way, and I wanted to do the deal the fair way. And Errol Spence seen it. He was agreeing with everything that I said. He was like, yeah, we can do this, we can do that. And he probably felt like he gave up too much, you know, at the end when it was all said and done. But I felt like everything was fair.
Was it in terms of like the purse split?
Everything.
Everything.
We talked about everything.
Yeah. And so this fight had been discussed for like how many years now? At least
5.
5 years. Wow.
Now you see that? This man has been about as sincere as you can be. And they didn't talk business in front of the public. they talk behind the scenes. And they were able to get that done by being behind the scenes with respect toward one another. And he just said that even Arrow was able to acknowledge and recognize some of the unfair play here. Don't forget, Spence made a comment before the pressers and everything. He said, I feel like I'm being played. You remember that? Now, some people took that and ran with it and had to say their little piece about what they felt that meant. Spence knows what he meant when he said that. But understand that it was said under the umbrella of them trying to make a deal here. Now, some of you might not remember that Al Heyman has stated, and they have admitted, he stated that he wasn't letting anybody touch this fight. They even tried to put Thurman up there. They tried to do everything. Spence held out for this fight. He's a hell of a man for doing that, because he may have lost some revenue and income. He may have he lost the fight, which is one of the biggest things, but he gains a certain type of respect that only certain individuals can give him. And I'm not talking about any of you fair-weathered folk, huh? From a business sense.
That's crazy that it takes that long for something like this to happen in boxing.
When I came to the welterweight division, I called out all the champions except Sean Porter. I called out all the champions. I wanted them all, at that time. And I wasn't able to get in the ring with any of them. And at that point in time, they was calling Errol Spence the boogeyman. And my reply was, how is he the boogeyman when I'm chasing him? I just wanted to prove to the world that I was better than what they say I was, because given the fact that how great I looked against each opponent, they say, oh, well, he wasn't nothing, or he was this, he was that, because how talented I am.
Right.
So they didn't want to give me no credit because I passed all my tests with flying colors. So it was great to get in the ring with Errol Spence Jr. and do the same thing, if not better than I did for the past opponents that I faced.
No, you were.
See, in all of that, remember Roy Jones's song, Y'all Must Have Forgot, where he says, they say I ain't fought nobody, but I just make them look like nobody. At that particular time in his career, Jones was fighting at a level above his contemporaries. And we couldn't see a loss on the horizon because he was just that good, head and shoulders above the other fighters around him. Terrence Bud Crawford told us at the presser, he said, I'm going to show and prove to you why this is the Terrence Bud Crawford era. And people laughed. They laughed. Did he not do what he said? Did he not do what he said? But prior to the fight, so many people were talking about Errol and what he had said, what he was going to do. And he had done everything that he said he was going to do. Remember in Oklahoma, when they met up in that corridor. And he said, I'm going to stop you. And Earl said, what? You going to stop me? On my life, you ain't stopping me. Bud said, I'm going to have you doing a stanky leg. He was like, you ain't stopping me. He was like, now y'all listen. When I beat him, they going to say he was weight drained and all of that. He said all of that years ago, right in front of the camera. Right in front of the cameras. Salute to Shamar Rashawn Shalom out there with that super chat member notification. I appreciate you. But he has said, he said it. But y'all never said Bud did what he said he was going to do. It was always the focus was on Earl doing what he said he was going to do. To the degree that it was blinding to not acknowledge the other guy, who was Crawford. It turns out that this is something that comes back. But I sat back and watched the whole thing. I watched it. And I listened to all these men, and I was like, man, this is going to be, I said it was going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly. I remember talking to Kurt and Scrapbook about it. They totally agreed with me. They said, yeah, Stormy, it's going to be a lot of sour grapes. And I was like, why can't people see what we can see? And it had nothing to do with who you like. It had everything to do with understanding boxing. It's kind of like me favoring Alexander Usyk next weekend. And the fact that Dubois definitely has strength and power, but that alone don't win fights. And Dubois ain't no damn good boxer. He's not. He's more robotic than Anthony Joshua. And I'm telling you, if Usyk beats this kid, you're going to have to start considering him in a certain class, because he is taking on, he done fought Joshua twice. He's fighting this young heavyweight stud. Who the hell has Tyson Fury fought outside of Klitschko and Deontay Wilder? Think about it. There's a lot to be said here, people. A lot. Let me finish this up.
Or on fire. It's sort of the same thing that Roy Jones Jr. faced. Like, everybody's like, Roy hasn't beaten anybody. Like, yes, he has.
Yeah.
It's just he's so much better than everybody else that he was making everybody else look like they weren't any good.
Definitely.
Didn't I just say that about Roy Jones? I just said that. And Joe Rogan repeated it almost verbatim.
Those were world championship caliber fighters, and Roy was just lighting them up.
Right.
And that sometimes when a fighter eclipses everyone else and reaches the pinnacle, that's the criticism they face until there's an undeniable moment, and that was your undeniable moment. Like, everybody's got to shut the fuck up now.
Yeah. and that's what my feelings was. A lot of people like, man, you didn't look too happy. After you won, I didn't see the excitement in you. I was like, man, I was happy. Just I had to prove myself. you know, to the world how great I knew I was, but at the same time, I was kind of disappointed at the same time that it took this long for me to get my recognition, for me to get a big marquee fight of this status at 35 years old.
Yeah. Especially after chasing it for 5 years.
Right. And I was chasing Manny Pacquiao for probably 5 years, probably before that.
Yeah.
So it's
See, and that whole thing about chasing Manny Pacquiao, whom Bob Arum kept away from him, and you all didn't assault Bob, you assaulted Bud. You gave Bud criticism for wanting to chase Pacquiao for a duration, but he knew what would come with the victory over Pacquiao. So it's like he's wrong for chasing that with Pacquiao. And think about this. Pacquiao fought at the age of 40. He fought Keith Thurman. And before Earl was diagnosed with his torn retina, he was in training for a fight against Pacquiao. So Pacquiao was willing to fight other guys, but not this guy. Why? Answer me why. Manny was no longer with Top Rank. So if Manny didn't want Bud, even at this later stage, remember, he fought Thurman, he fought Ugas, and he was gonna fight Earl, but he didn't want to fight this guy. You see? There's something to be said here, people. But y'all blame him because he fit the description.
like I've been champion for 9 years, going on 10 years in March. So I've been doing this game for a long time, you know, and I've been at the top since I beat Gamboa, and I've been looking for all the biggest challenges there is, and some of them I was able to capture, and some of them went the other way. And I'm just blessed to be able to be the first man to be undisputed in the junior welterweight division, the first man to be undisputed in the welterweight division in the four-belt era, the first man to be undisputed in two-weight divisions. So it's a blessing. It's a blessing.
It's a huge blessing. It's an amazing accomplishment. You looked happy. You were dancing with
Yeah.
your mom. You were having a good time.
Yeah,
I don't know
of
why
course.
people thought you weren't happy.
Because, you know, when you go in the back room, everybody want to see the excitement.
Right.
I was just like, oh, I got that off my back.
Yeah.
Well,
you
it
knew
was a
you
sign
had
of
it.
relief.
Was there anything unusual about that fight? Like, is that exactly how you expected the exchanges to go? I'm sure you watched a ton of tape on him, right?
Actually, I didn't.
Really?
I didn't, because a lot of people always ask me, do I watch a lot of film on my opponents? And I always tell them no, because I have a different style. They're not going to fight me the same style or the same way that they fought their previous opponents. They just not, you know. So I already knew how he fought. I just watched probably like 2 fights of his just to get a feel for what he liked to do, what he don't like, the things that, you know, I can capitalize on. And that's it. Like, I don't watch too much film because I'm going to make my adjustments on the fly inside the ring. So, yeah, I don't watch too much film.
That's interesting. What is...
Now, see, that part of his explanation I understand, because he basically leaves it up to his coaching staff, and they formulate a game plan, and then he works within that game plan. But he has the flexibility to be able to adapt to circumstances and make adjustments, which is so important. I've done shows on making adjustments on my Tuesday Tussle. See, this is what's important when you can listen to a guy. This young man is sitting here. It's like sitting on the front porch talking to a neighbor. He's not arrogant. He's a confident young man, confident in his capabilities and abilities, but he can express exactly what he's about because he has experience and he's been challenged all his life. Another thing that people did not really take note of. A person who's always had to overcome and show and persevere and press through and press forward because someone is denying him, closing the door in his face, pushing him to the side or telling him he can't come in and things of that nature. And remember, I talked about his complexion. That's a very strong point within all of this. It's very important. It should not be overlooked.
The general consensus on that about watching film. Do most champions watch film? Is it just on an individual basis?
No, some people like to watch film to where they feel as if they know what their opponent's going to do, when they're going to do it, because they got certain habits to identify when they're going to throw a punch or when they're going to back up. Certain things that you see as a top athlete, you start noticing, okay, I noticed that he's doing this when he's doing this. He's doing that when he's doing this. And you pick up on that. And so you put it in your mind like, okay, we're going to prepare for this. When he do that, we're going to do this. So you try to capitalize on it. But me, I never was that type of person. I let my coaches, they do the studying, and then they come up with a plan, and then they shoot me the plan to win, and we just go from there.
When you switch, because you're in my opinion the best ever at switching from orthodox to southpaw since Marvin Hagler. You're the best ever. Like, when do you decide? Do you just feel it? Do you go out there southpaw sometimes and say, I'm gonna fucking switch it up? Like, how do you make those changes?
Well, I think I made the change to fight southpaw in the back dressing room.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, man, how should I come out? Because in my mind, I was just so filled with, like, the energy from the weigh-ins, the press conference, the weight, the moment. So I was like, man, I just want to go out there and, you know, everybody's saying I'm too small, so I wanted to prove them wrong. Everybody was saying he was going to walk me down, so I was just like, man, you know, they just don't know. Like, I just had that chip on my shoulder. Like, I just want to go head on with the bull and just go fight him. And it was like, just box. I was like, just box. And then I was remembering, I was like, he ever fought too many southpaws before? And then on one of the occasions, he got hurt real bad by a hook. So I was like, I'm coming out southpaw and we gonna box, just to start off. But at the same time, I'm gonna get my respect out the gate. I'm not gonna be doing all that moving. So the plan was never to move, and everybody, when you interview them, they was like, oh, Terrence got to be slippery. He can't stand in front of Spence. He can't do this. He got to get on his bicycle. I'm like, he ain't no Terminator. I'm like, man, I'm going to be right there in front of him like I always do. You know, I'm going to make him miss and make him pay, and I'm going to fight my fight. So I feel like that was the key for the victory, because he wasn't used to fighting southpaws.
Now, see, a well-spoken professional fighter who understood what his abilities are. Everybody was thinking he can't fight the guy. He can't stand on the inside. I've always known this young man to be an inside fighter. He does a lot of damage when he's in close to people. He knocked out that guy he knocked out for the undisputed at 140. Inside body punch. When he knocked out Benavidez Jr., inside punch, uppercut, 45 to the chin. A punch that he had thrown earlier in the fight that missed by mere inches because they were fresh. But in the 12th round, 11th round, 12th round, yeah, he caught him, nailed him with that shot and ended him. He can punch from mid-range and also from the outside. Versatility is a key when you're in professional sports. If you're capable of doing more than one thing, like in basketball, to be able to have what they call handles, to handle the rock, to be able to shoot, to be able to defend, and you're also a guy who will go and rebound, you're a valuable asset on the floor. And coaches will want you out there the majority of the time because you're affecting the game from several positions of how the game is played. As a fighter, to be a complete fighter, you have to be diversified in your abilities the same way. This man was mulling over how he was going to attack and approach the fight on fight night in the dressing room. Even though he had camp and everything, he was still indecisive about how he wanted to attack the fight because he wanted to show his stuff. You see that? That's impressive, whether you think so or not.
Do you feel as comfortable orthodox as southpaw? Do you feel like you're better in one stance, or is it just depending upon the opponent?
I think it's dependent on the opponent. You know, I feel I'm equally as great in both stands. I'm very powerful in both stands. I hit just as hard with my left, probably even harder with my left than my right, you know, but I think it's the opponent.
They were talking about it in the broadcast. They said that when you were a kid, you hurt your hand, and so that's why you started practicing southpaw. Yeah,
that's when I started actually practicing it, you know. That was something that when I had the cast on, I was like, man, I love the gym so much. I'm like, man, I'm not leaving the gym. Like, I'm going to practice with this left. And that's when I got the left stronger, because at first, when I go southpaw, it was only, you know, my right. Then when my hand got messed up, just started working on the left, and it started getting stronger and stronger. And I started getting more accurate, because at first, just throw it just to be throwing it. And then, you know, it just got to a point where my left was actually way stronger than my right when it came back. So I had to get my right back stronger.
That's great. It's crazy that you have that option, because that's such an amazing advantage to be able to fight just as comfortably from orthodox as southpaw.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, I look at it like you can't go nowhere.
Right.
Like you trapped. Like you move to your left, I can go southpaw and cut you off. You move to your right, I can go orthodox and cut you off. So, and then it is great that I can pack a punch in both hands as well, because a lot of people, when they switch, they give up something.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I switch, I gain something in both stands that I probably don't have in the other stands. So it's great for me.
Amazing interview there. Excuse me, listening to Bud. Articulate his thoughts about how he fights and everything. There's a lot of respect there that I have for him doing his thing. So much respect. I want to take now a moment out to go to some boxing news that I had run across earlier in the day. Ordinarily, I would have did a video on this, but I've done a couple of videos on Joshua and Deontay, Eddie Hearn, and Deontay. So now I want to move into this, and let's have a small talk about this, because, you know, sometimes when you see how the sport is moving, you could tell that they're doing certain things with an agenda, huh? And that agenda is like, it's there whether you want to see it or not. Now, what am I talking about? I want to talk about this particular article that came out today. Boxing News 24 is reporting that the WBC has canceled the order for Deontay Wilder versus Andy Ruiz, their final eliminator. Now, it says the WBC has canceled their order for Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz to meet in a final eliminator due to the fight not being put together. Number 1 Wilder and number 3 Joshua are in negotiations for a mega fight in January in Saudi Arabia. There's already a tremendous amount of fan interest in the Joshua Wilder fight in the boxing world, despite it still being in the negotiation stage. It is believed by some that the WBC will put their interim title at stake for the Joshua Wilder contest, with the winner in a position to challenge champion Tyson Fury. The WBC ordered Wilder versus Ruiz to determine the mandatory challenger for heavyweight champion Tyson Fury. Although Wilder attempted to put together a fight with the former unified champion Ruiz, negotiations never got off the ground, partly due to Andy's insistence on a 50-50 split. Excuse me. Besides, there wasn't much fan interest in a Wilder-Ruiz fight, mostly because Ruiz has done precious little since losing his unified heavyweight championship to Joshua in their rematch December 2019. Andy has let his career go down the drain after making $10 million from his 2 fights with AJ. The World Boxing Council will rule at their next convention in November to determine a new title eliminator. The WBC will likely order number 2 Ruiz to face number 4 Arslanbek Makhmudov. Given how difficult a fight that will be for Ruiz, he'll likely decline. The next option would be for the WBC to order Makhmudov to battle number 5 Frank Sanchez. You know, people like Andy Ruiz, man, see, he took that opportunity through Wilder's blessings to face Joshua as a fill-in after Jarrell Big Baby Miller popped dirty, and they were looking for a late substitute. But once he got a taste of that money and everything, he just lost all sensibility and discipline and everything. People should tell Andy Ruiz to take his fat behind and go on off into the sunset. Nobody cares, really. Nobody cares. You're just a wart on the sport of boxing in the heavyweight division. You have nothing to offer. You have very little ability. And you have even less motivation. So get the hell out of the sport, man. You're holding things up. There are other fighters who have turned down fights with Wilder who would love to fight before facing Joshua. Wilder had even gone on record saying that he wanted to fight 3 times in 2023, but no one has stepped up to the plate. That tells you more than you want to know about how not only dangerous Wilder is as a fighter, but also how the powers that be don't initiate and force these fighters to pee or get off the pot. Personally, it looks even more to me like Wilder's being blackballed, and they're hoping by putting him on ice for a whole year that by the time he faces Anthony Joshua, you know, being 37 years old, being that much older and inactive, that they would have a chance to take advantage of that. But I could see this going a total different way for Anthony Joshua. He might be, if they do face, he might be made to pay for the guys who have ducked or gone the other way, or who have tried to freeze Wilder out of heavyweight competition. That's a heck of a seat to be in. I wouldn't want to be there. I wouldn't want to be there. I'm talking about if being Joshua and being in that position. It's not smart. It's not good business. But I'm going to tell you something. What they have done to Deontay Wilder, man, I have said this. I would like to see Wilder retire because I don't like how they are working around him. That doesn't mean I don't want to watch him fight. That doesn't mean I don't have my support behind him and everything. It just means that I could see what they're doing to the brother. I could see it. Anybody else can get fights. Anybody could be made to fight. Anybody could, they'll make a deal that's unmakeable and all of that. But he is the one that nobody seemingly wants to work with. That Sanchez guy and that Makhmudov guy, Wilder would knock both of their heads off. Especially the Makhmudov, because he ain't got no movement. He's just a big oaf. And you stand right there, you're going to get blitzed. I don't like it, man. I really don't. And I got much love and respect and support for Deontay Wilder. But this is BS what they are doing to him. BS. Yeah. What they're doing is improper, man. It's totally improper. Yeah, so, but those are my thoughts on that. I just wanted to get that in before we got up out of here, man. It's a damn shame what they're doing. And again, the people should protest. The people should have something to say about this because it's not right. But before we get out of here, let me go to my man Focus Ball. We got the Focus Ball commercial here.
Get ready to take your striking game to the next level with the Focus Ball. Dramatically improved footwork, timing, head movement, hand-eye coordination, reflex, and overall fight IQ. It's lightweight and extremely portable, so you can train every time, everywhere. When you don't have a coach to do mitt work, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a heavy bag to hit, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a sparring partner, get yourself a Focus Ball. And when you just want to have fun punching and kicking, get a Focus Ball. When you train with the Focus Ball, you train your eyes and your brain to read punches so that you can hit and not get hit, making this very simple device a must-have for all combat sports athletes and enthusiasts alike. So if you want to take your striking game to the next level, don't wait. Get the Focus Ball now.
Yeah, salute to the brother Eric Jordan out there in that super chat. He says, it's going to be a hard win for AJ if they fight, bro. Sluggish, slow, and his defense is not up to par. He needs to improve. Yeah, I agree with that, Eric. I agree with that. He's definitely, Joshua has limitations that are glaring. And a fighter like Wilder can expose those limitations very quickly, just like he did for Helenius. It took Joshua all those rounds to get Helenius out of there. Just like when they fought Dominique Brazil, same thing. It took Joshua all those rounds to deal with Brazil. But, Deontay was able to get him out of there quickly. Man, I got a spider that's coming down in front of my screen on my computer. Got to get rid of him, bro. Got to get rid of him. Spider-Man. Spidey senses. That's it. You're up out of there. Yeah. My light is what allowed me to see that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen him. And I know I've been bit by spiders down here. Anyway. So, yeah. But, this is pretty much it for this evening, man. The Friday night chop session. I told you guys that we would talk about a few things. That thing with Bud and Joe Rogan was pretty good. I don't know, man. Lauren was saying that Wilder should fight somebody this year like Parker or something. They don't want to fight him. They're freezing him out. Everybody's turning down a fight or they're asking for too much money. And listen, you've heard other content creators say this, and I'm backing it. One of the easiest way to duck a fight is to ask for too much money. These guys know their worth. And some of these guys are asking, like Andy Ruiz asking for 50-50 against Wilder. There's no way in hell he's worth that. No way in hell. You can't even trust that he's going to come into a fight in shape. So 50-50, what has he done to get 50-50 with anybody? Unless he's going in an all-you-can-eat buffet, with another fat person. That's about it, But people need to wake up, man. Pay attention to this foolishness that these guys got going on. But I'm going to get ready to get on up out of here. I appreciate everybody that came out to rock with me this evening. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace to everybody and have a great weekend.